What up, perps? Kid Copious, back in effect. Purple State Party. You know what we're doing here? We're repping America, the center, and common sense. And lately, a lot more of California. You know, my whole thing is that when it comes to certain things, you can have conservative values, but you need to have progressive values just as well. The two blending together, making a perfect party. That's what Purple State is. So we're going to look at some of that stuff, and we're going to kick it off right now. You know, I realized that a lot of times I was burying the most important things late in my podcast. I don't know how many people make it that far. Not a lot, according to the statistics. But so let's try to cover some of the most important stuff that we need to talk about this week. You know, right now the average gas price across the United States is $4.53. You know, here in California, it's above $6. And Gavin Newsom rejects a green tax holiday. You know, we pay a lot in taxes. And this is an easy win for him to just say, you know what, we're going to suspend some of these fees and taxes that we're putting on gasoline. It might cost the state a little bit of money to get that done. I understand that. But, you know, it would mean something. You know, we could lower the cost of gasoline through removing taxes to closer to the national average. As you know, Gavin Newsom and the Democrats of California have chased out refineries. They don't allow pipelines. They stop the growth of the oil industry here. They levy taxes and regulations that add to the cost of a gallon of gas. And then, of course, they blame Trump. Look, the war in Iran was inevitable. It just was. Iran has been building up its nuclear capability despite all of the promises that it made to people like Obama. So we knew we were going to have to, you know, do this. I don't think anybody really foresaw how the closing of the Hormuz was going to affect things. I mean, I'm guessing they probably had some idea, but we knew we were going to have to suck it up for a little while. This is what happens. But again, here in California, we have plenty of oil. We could be drilling it ourselves. But we are slaves to the environmentalists. We are the most populous state, and yet we have to make all of these rules and regulations that make housing, fuel, energy, all of that stuff expensive, all in the name of this green environmentalist lobby that's out there. We could turn our backs on these people. We could do the important things without adding to the cost that just the average Californian has to pay. He has a chance to do this right now, and he rejects it because they're just slaves to the master of the. And I'm an environmentalist myself. Okay, I care about the environment. You know, I do my part. I do recycle. I do try to clean up trash when I see it out and about. I feed the birds. I feed the squirrels. I feed the crows. You know, I'm a pack it in, pack it out type of guy when it comes to going out into nature. I love nature, and I don't want to fuck it up. I don't want to fuck up our oceans. I don't want to screw up our skies any more than they are. But, you know, at some point we have to balance out the environment with the needs of the people. And here in California, as we've seen, it just tilts one way. And that one way makes it really expensive on us, while the super rich donors continue to just push these agendas. But anyhow, enough of that. You know, Gavin's on his way out, so what good is this to him? But you see, that's the kind of politician that I can't stand. These career politicians who only care about rich donors and themselves. I mean, that's what I'm advocating for here. You know, change in the way we elect people, and change in the people that we elect. But I really wanted to get to this one. You know, Texas dad and son have first encounter with trans woman, and dad sets powerful example. This is a small moment with a big lesson. You know, they're in a place called Clyde, Texas. It's a small place, and they were at a truck stop. And he went on TikTok to share this with everybody. It wasn't anything major. She had just walked through a door behind them, and Barlow, that's the man's name, James Eric Barlow, held the door for her just as he would any other person. He didn't even notice that she was trans at first. But once he did, his immediate reaction was one that we could all learn from. And this is what he said in his TikTok video. When I tell you how happy it made me, he began to tear up. To be able to see somebody be out and open in a world here in small town Texas, you just got, that just shows how much bravery that takes. And he turns to his son and he says, right, Mikey? And his son says, hell yeah. And he wanted to say something to the person, but, he didn't want to make an uncomfortable situation or, whatever, create a spectacle. So he said in his TikTok video, but if you're a trans woman and you came here to the landmark truck stop in Clyde, Texas, just know how proud we are of you. And the internet, of course, reacted, and, there were a lot of positive comments. And the one that I thought was the best comes from TikToker Todd Thompson. Indoctrinate your children with kindness, compassion, consideration, and respect for others. Yeah. And that's what it is. Look at that. Americans, real Americans, okay, we respect bravery. And trans people have to demonstrate bravery. Don't listen to all of the fringe left lunatics out there who paint trans people with a really ugly brush, all right? Because the average trans person is just like you and me. They're just trying to get through their day. They're just trying to find a little bit of happiness. They're on the grind, man. They're out there and they deserve our respect. That doesn't mean that we have to kowtow to all of these crazy things that we've seen in recent years. No. Common sense can still play a part in it, but compassion has to be right there. And that's what I mean when I say, you can be conservative with progressive ideas. You can welcome gay people and trans people. But that doesn't mean you have to be soft on crime. That doesn't mean you have to kowtow to the altar of the environment. You can have both. We can have both. Speaking of the environment, one of the problems I have, we seem to think that recycling is this end-all be-all, and it isn't. We've learned this. I learned this a long time ago from a show called Penn and Teller's Bullshit. Paper recycling involves large amounts of bleach. Glass recycling, well, that's just useless. I mean, we're not running out of silica. We're not running out of it. Fine, you want to recycle it? Cool, whatever. I have been recycling aluminum my entire life. I remember going to golf courses with my dad and getting cans out of the trash can, going around to neighbors and collecting cans. It puts money back in my pocket, cool. But aluminum is, you could just keep recycling aluminum over and over again. But here in Culver City, where I'm near Culver City in Los Angeles County, they sent people out between sunrise and 9 a.m. to go through the trash cans to see if people were complying with our recycling regulations. Officials described the program as a friendly inspection campaign aimed at keeping food scraps out of landfills and helping Culver City meet state environmental mandates. Who gives a shit about food scraps in a landfill? Most of those food scraps are going to get eaten by crows and seagulls. Who the hell cares if there's food scraps in there? They want me to put my food scraps in with my green trash, which means now my green trash is going to get all stinky and maggoty and all of that stuff. And I'm supposed to what? Wash it out? Wasting the one resource we can't afford to waste, which is water? This is so stupid and backwards. The amount of water that we use in recycling is just ridiculous, okay? I recycle my water. I rinse out glasses and stuff like that, and the last one, I pour it out with the flowers. This is just ridiculous. Like people, like one person wrote in response to this, let the homeless trash up the entire city, but God forbid somebody throws the wrong thing in a bin. Are they going to put cameras in next? Well, yeah, we have people shitting on the sidewalks. We have people harassing workers and customers in front of businesses, drunk, drugged out, crazy people, just destroying the environment, destroying it, making every nook and cranny of our cities look like blight, taking over parks. They don't do anything about that, but God forbid you put a pizza crust in the blue bin. Oh boy, that's going to spoil the whole load. I doubt it. I really doubt it. Workers were checking whether residents are properly separating food waste, recycling, and trash. Right. Because that's the important thing. You see, that's the cuckoo bananas thing. We know what our problems here in California are. Homelessness, lack of homes, and crime. Those are the three big ones right now. Okay? Oh, and fuel and energy. Let's not forget that, because we need fuel and energy to keep our lives going. But let's not concentrate on that. Let's concentrate on recycling bins. It's gotten out of control. It's just stupid at this point. And the last thing I really, really hope that people pay attention to is this billionaires tax. This is a Trojan horse. They bill it as the billionaires tax, but what they don't tell you, like this article says, the name is designed to make you stop reading. Don't. The biggest problem here, okay, this isn't about defending billionaires. This is about defending the rest of us, because the Tax Foundation, an organization that looks at the impacts of taxes, has said that the measure's design could push the effective rate on some taxpayers well above the average 5%. The Hoover Institution, okay, will actually eliminate income tax revenue from departing residents, and by their estimations, we will actually be $25 billion in the hole. Nearly 30% of the billionaires have already left California. Congratulations, guys. Every time those people leave, they take their income tax with them. But here's the biggest problem. The biggest problem is that buried in the fine print, and I saw it with my own two eyes, is a provision that allows the California legislature to expand the tax, lowering the threshold, adding asset categories by a simple majority vote. In other words, this billionaire's tax can turn into a millionaire's tax, or it could turn into a grinder's tax, where they start coming after your assets. Ask yourself right now, the things that you have bought and paid for, your assets, do you want those taxed at 5%? Where are you going to come up with the money? Imagine if you had to come up with 5% of your car's value, because this bill will allow them to change that. Right now, they say that this bill does not affect residential homes, but that could be changed, and we have no say over it. That's the problem with what they do. They did that with the Road Safety Act. The Road Safety Act was fighting against repealing the gas tax, and it then allowed the legislature to raise the gas tax whenever, how much, whatever they want to do, they just do it. These bills are Trojan horses, and you owe it to yourself to read about it. And if you don't read about it, just vote no. Vote against it. If you don't understand it, if you don't get all the information into your dome, okay, don't vote for it, because this is what they're doing. And all of this money that they're going to raise is for this fictitious Medicare cuts. It's all about being able to have all this money for health care in California. Okay? That's a good idea. I do like that idea. But here's a way that you could get $231 billion. Stop the rail. Stop the stupid high-speed train. What? Seriously, you're going to take a bus from Los Angeles out to Bakersfield, up to Merced, and then a bus over to San Jose? Who's doing that? Who does that benefit? Wow, we get to pin a ribbon on our chest, but it's not going to solve any problems? But just know this, that this bill is a Trojan horse, okay? So, yeah, your favorite person and mine, Kamala Harris, has come out and endorsed L.A. Mayor Karen Bass for re-election, praising her leadership in reducing homelessness and crime. Look, we'll just try to skim over this really quickly. They say that homelessness is down about 5%, okay? The truth of the matter is that the LA homeless population was undercounted by about 32%, okay? So it's grown. I think if we all open our eyes and look around, we can see that it's grown. We're seeing more and more streets being taken over by RVs and tent cities. We're seeing it, okay? I am a big believer in trying to help these people. I really am. But I also know that a lot of them can't be helped. And that's why, again, like I've said time and time again, we need to build a facility to house these people, to try to rehabilitate them, but at least contain the people who don't want to be rehabilitated, who don't want help. But they need to be off of our fucking streets, period. Okay? You can feel sorry for a druggie, somebody who's addicted to drugs, okay? You can feel sorry for that person, but that doesn't give them the right to shit in front of people's businesses, to set up tents next to schools, to have open-air drug markets on residential streets and in front of businesses, and to harass people, all right? You can feel sorry for people without giving them a blank check to do whatever the fuck they want. You could do that. That is a possibility in the realm of realities. Okay, but anyhow, let's talk about Karen Bass. She got slammed recently in local newspapers for her despicable, as they say, attack on Palisades fire victim Spencer Pratt. Like she said, but the thing I'm concerned about is that I feel like he's exploiting the grief of people in the Palisades, and I think that's reprehensible. He is about his own celebrity. Yeah, well, as people were quick to point out, as this one ex-commentator pointed out, exploiting grief, he lost everything along with family. Yeah. Like another person wrote, what's hilarious is that when she insults or gaslights them, she's basically doing the same to every victim of the Palisades fires. And her claim that she had no idea of who he is was wild. He was one of the most outspoken victims. It just makes her seem out of touch and indifference. Yeah. The fire in LA County destroyed more than 10,000 buildings, displaced tens of thousands of residents, and claimed at least 10 lives. But she's been out of shape about Pratt drawing attention to it because they ran out of water. And guess what? That reservoir that ran out of water is still empty because we're not doing anything to collect rainwater. Look up Petra, Petra. Look up Petra. It was one of the most wealthy cities in the ancient times. And they were in the middle of the desert and they barely got any rain. But yet they had water. Why? They collected every possible drop. And that's what we should be doing. Yeah. Like Pratt says here, Pratt responded to Bass's put-downs. Karen always likes to talk about her experience and never your experience in her city. Stepping over homeless drug addicts, having your business tagged up every night, no street lights. If she's so experienced with governance, why is she so bad at governance? There you go. I have all the experience that I need. I have experienced the consequences of Karen Bass's failed leadership. All of us has. She needs to step aside, Pratt says. I am very familiar with Spencer Pratt, okay? The radio show that I used to listen to, R.I.P. Kevin and Bean, they made fun of Spencer Pratt all the time, all right? But now I'm starting to see who Spencer Pratt is. Spencer Pratt knew how to work the system. He knew he was going to ultimately be painted as the bad guy. He played into it. He got famous being the bad guy, okay? That's cool. But what I'm seeing out of Spencer Pratt now is a person after my own heart who's fed up with all of this. I don't attack the Democrats of California because, I vote Republican. That's not my team. No, I attack them because for over 50 years, I've seen the effects of their policies. I've seen their laissez-faire about spending tax dollars. I've seen their laziness. I've seen their corruption. I've seen their marriage to every single special interest group. And I pay for it. And I love this state. All right? This state, California, is better than any state out there. That's the way I look at it. I always have and always will. But what I see is these politicians lining their pockets, and that's what they do. They really do. They give money to these special interest groups, to these special little projects, and then at the end of the day, those special projects will turn around and employ them for a salary after they've termed out. That's the kind of shit that gets pulled. They give money to the campaign donations. All right? But right now, fire concerns are rising again in the Palisades as dry brush accumulates in burn scar areas. And like I said before, the reservoir is still out of service. So Bass knows what the problem is, isn't doing anything about it. Of course, officials say that efforts are underway, including inspections, defensible space, and vegetation management. Right. Yeah. Meanwhile, Spencer Pratt, running a campaign that really isn't costing very much money, points out that the Democrat Socialists of America, Eunice Hernandez, went on social media and was touting this project. Oh my gosh, look at what we've done. For $16 million, they built 16 tiny homes that will house 64 homeless people. That is a $250,000 per bed. This is one of the things that Spencer Pratt has been pointing out, and I agree with the guy. When you are spending $16 million to house 64 people, touting it as though it's some sort of success, when there's tens of thousands of homeless people out there, you're just blowing smoke up your constituents' asses, and people are buying it. You know, what I found the most interesting about that particular article was there's a venture capitalist, Sean McGuire, who has a social media presence, pretty big one, and he responded to Spencer's video exposing this waste of money. He said, "Common sense is bipartisan. Spencer Pratt gets it." That's what I preach here, right? That's what I'm trying to bring out. Common sense. Like, I don't care if it's a Republican idea or a Democrat idea. I just wanted to have some common sense behind it. You know? And then so, another person was writing about Spencer Pratt and his ability to dominate the online conversation, referring to his viral "They Not Like Us" campaign ad, in which he claimed opponents Karen Bass and Nithya Raman don't have to live in the mess they created. And that is the big problem that we have with these politicians. They don't live where we live. They don't deal with our problems. It's like the people who want to take away your right to carry a gun, but meanwhile they have armed security. You see, it's that out-of-touch stuff. You have to make your laws and your rules for a majority of the people. That's what you have to do. But, I just gone on with this enough. But they had a recent debate for the mayoral candidates, and the NBC poll showed that Spencer Pratt won by a landslide over Bass and that commie, that Raman. We do not need democratic socialists, okay? Democratic socialists will tax you to within an inch of your life and then waste the money. That's what they do. Here it is again. California's other transit boondoggle. Yeah. There was a project to connect the Bay Area with the San Joaquin Valley, the Valley Link Rail Project, that has had millions of dollars poured into it since 2018. So for 8 years, they've been planning this thing. One guy who was interviewed about it said, "I was really looking forward to it, but by the time they finish it, I'll be retired." But again, see, here's another spot. They let the homeless do whatever they want. They want to monitor our trash cans, but homeless people can live wherever they want. Well, there was a homeless community in an access tunnel under the 110 freeway. Okay, the 110 freeway is a vital linkage between a lot of our freeways. It flows out of the ports of LA and Long Beach. It's a very important, vital route, you could say. There was a homeless fire in an access tunnel under the freeway that burned for nearly 24 hours because they couldn't get in. It's a tunnel. It's on fire. You got to fight the fire, clean it out, get to the next part, and the next part, whatever, right? They now think that it has damaged the freeway. So that's more money that we now have to spend because of the homeless. That's the part that these politicians and their sycophantic media cohorts don't want to tell you about. Sure, we've spent billions of dollars here in LA on the homelessness, and the population's only grown. Why? Because that billions of dollars was spent to incentivize people to move here to be homeless. We've sent out a beacon to the country and say, hey, if you just want to sit around and do drugs all day, what better spot than California? It's like a fucking tourism ad. But there's another cost. The infrastructure. We talked a couple weeks ago about how they've been stealing the lights and all of that, stealing copper out of the lighting, and now they want to bill homeowners for that. They steal fire hydrants. They steal everything that isn't bolted down. They destroy property. They defecate on property. They drive customers away from business. That's the true cost. There is a cost of homelessness for each and every one of us. We all have to deal with it. And God forbid you're one of the unfortunate people that becomes a victim of a crime from these people. But they don't want to do anything about it. But meanwhile, they're causing a fire under a freeway. Oh, that's good news, isn't it? That's really helpful. And are they doing anything about it? No, they're inspecting trash cans in Culver City. That's what they're doing about it. They're forcing us to drive electric vehicles. Oh, that'll solve something. It won't solve anything. I am not sitting here preaching and whatever because these people have a D next to their name. I'm preaching because these people are freaking stupid and they don't care about spending our money. They just simply don't. They'll tax us more and they'll tax us more. They'll con us into voting for this billionaires tax. All that money will go to health care, which will probably be helping non-American citizens. It'll also incentivize all the other non-American citizens to move to California to get the free health care that's going to be handed out. And meanwhile, who benefits? The healthcare workers? Okay, there's a positive to it. I don't mind that. But before you take another dime from anybody, I don't care if it's from the poorest person or the richest person, before you take another dime, focus on the real issues and stop wasting money. Account for the money. Why have we spent billions of dollars on the homeless problem and it's only gotten worse? They like to blame, believe it or not, the rich people in their own communities because they don't want the projects there. There is a lot of room in California, okay? There is a lot of room. Drive out towards Riverside. Drive to the other side of the mountain. Out there, Palmdale, Lancaster. There's a lot of room out there. We could build facilities. We could build low-cost housing. We could connect it via trains and buses. We could do this. We could make an entire freaking city of nothing but homeless people and keep them contained and try to help the people that want the help. We could do that, but we won't. It's cheaper and easier just to let them fill our streets with poop and die out there. But of course, being that the dumbass liberals that they are, they've put Narcan everywhere, and now they tout it as, look how many lives we've saved. That's cool. But you know that there are people out there who get high, they OD, they get Narcan, and then they go right back to the dealer to buy more because, boy, that was some good shit. That's the reality. I think that's what Spencer Pratt has over these other candidates and what people like Bianco have over these other candidates for governor. A little bit of common sense, a little bit of real life experience. We don't need fucking billionaires running the state, okay? We don't. We need people who understand what it's like down here on the bottom. All right, I want to get to something that's a little bit funnier. So on May 3rd, there were a bunch of people, I don't know how many, it doesn't really say, dozens, who convened up north there, up by San Francisco, East Oakland, Berkeley, San Francisco, and they were doing a bike takeover, all right? And they spent about 45 minutes in the city before returning to the Bay Bridge. Once they got up on the Bay Bridge, they found that both ends of the bridge had been blocked off by cops. A lot of the people got away. They did arrest 4 people for felonies. They recovered a couple firearms, but they also impounded a whole bunch of vehicles. And as the one of the officers in charge was quoted as saying, "This ain't over. If you made it away yesterday, just expect a knock on your door," because they have the vehicle registrations off these motorcycles. But this is what we need. We have a problem with these takeovers, okay? It's one thing if a bunch of people want to get together and kind of have like a, show off their cars, show off their motorcycles or whatever, right? But what it often, just like protests, it devolves into rioting or crime. But I don't want to go into too much of that. That was kind of funny, though. They literally just, could you imagine that? So, during a debate, Katie Porter admitted the quiet part out loud. You know, she was asked if she would work with federal authorities on immigration. She says, the sanctuary state policy is designed to make sure our state resources, the tax dollars, the public servants that we have are focused on doing their jobs, which is not cooperating with federal immigration authorities. These are Californians. They contribute to our economy. They pay taxes. And they're one of the only ways that our state has been growing in recent years. Yeah. That's right. Our population is shrinking. And the only way we can keep our numbers up is by bringing in homeless drug addicts and illegal immigrants. And that keeps the count going up. But, Gavin Newsom recently was lying about that. And, he tried to say, no, we've had growth. We've had growth. No, we lost 54,000 residents. The State Department of Finance blames it on federal immigration restrictions. What? So again, you're saying that without immigration, California would be going down. Newsom boasted that no state has outperformed our economy, but of course we have the second worst unemployment. Our state's unemployment is 5.3% right now. That's a whole point behind the national rate of average. But why is it that Newsom doesn't tell the truth? Well, because he just blames Trump. That's what he does. He says, Trump lies, so I can lie. Trump's mean, so I'll be mean. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, Trump lies. Trump is certainly guilty of hyperbole. But on a lot of things, he's been right, like the war on Iran. It was inevitable. It had to be done. But that's what really frustrates me about Democrats right now. Hating Trump is not a platform. Gavin could suspend the gas tax and garner a real win. He could drop the train project and he could claw back some of that money for health care. He could admit and tackle the departure of citizens. He could end the sanctuary state policies. He could end the soft on crime. And he could actually build facilities to house these homeless dregs that are out there. Put them in a giant lot that's fenced in. Let them sleep out there in their tents. Why do their tents have to be on our streets? Oh, because Trump? I don't understand that. And if you're one of those people, you got to reassess the way you're thinking. All right? I get it. People don't like Trump. I get it. People have their reasons to not like Republicans. Cool. I get that. But if you are going to allow people into power that are going to mess everything up simply because they're not Republicans or they're not Trump, what the hell are you doing? What are you doing? Like, when you look at the governors that are running right now on the Democrat side, there's a guy from San Jose. He was the mayor of San Jose, Matt Mahan. He's got some solutions, but he's getting buried because they want Steyer. They want like this guy that's even more environmentally, an environmental slave, a billionaire who just who doesn't really care about how much we have to pay for it. He is completely in bed. His flyer that he sent out, he was actually endorsed by Jane Fonda, that commie bitch who posed with the NVA during the Vietnam War. I don't mind if a person's a Democrat. Just have some damn common sense. A little bit of common sense. Admit the problems and look for real solutions. Get your faces out of our fucking trash cans. Peace, y'all. Thank you for watching. I'm Kid Copious from Purple State Party. And so are you. Love one another. Keep on grinding. And you know what? I'd love to just say, just laugh it off. But I've been saying it for so long now. I gotta say it. Dance it out.